Go ahead and start, everyone. Sorry for the delay, but they're going to work on it. For all of those of you that didn't get to join via Zoom, what we're going to do is we've got it recording, and I have a way to edit out all the parts at the beginning here with us just talking. And we're going to put the presentation up later on Facebook, unless Chris and our other social media guru get this going. But we're going to go ahead and start. I'm Ernestine Chipman. I'm the Vice President of Programs for the League of Women Voters of Irving. Welcome to our speaker series program for October 2021. We're glad you could join us. We usually have programs on a monthly basis. This is the last one for 2021. We will begin again in January 2022. As I mentioned earlier in the recording, we list our events on Facebook under the League of Women Voters of Irving. And we also have a website where we have a listing of upcoming events. And that's at lwvirving.org. Tonight, we have Sean Reed. He's the Equity Officer and Civic Engagement Chairperson with the Dallas-Fort Worth Urban League of Young Professionals. He graduated from Sam Houston State University in 2016 with a bachelor's degree in Human Resource Management. He has a diverse set of both work and volunteer experiences. His work experience includes working as a nurse liaison with the Quest Group, human resource employment specialist and recruiter at UT Southwestern Medical Center, also as a secondary school science teacher in the Dallas ISD. And since April 2021, he has been the career navigator with United Way of Metropolitan Dallas. His volunteer experience includes the Southern Dallas initiative called Your Vote, Your Voice, the Texas Organizing Project, and as a board member of the Black Academy of Arts and Letters, Inc. With all these various experiences, I know he's going to have a lot to share with us, and some of his current activities with Dallas Votes and all these other organizations regarding voter registration and voter engagement and getting out the vote. And if you would those of you on Zoom, if you would put your questions in the chat, and if we do get Facebook Live going, please put those in the comments section. All right, Sean, I'm going to let you take it from here.
Thank you so much, Ernestine, for that great introduction. I was shocked that you knew so much about me because I didn't submit that. So thank you for sharing that with everyone here today. I'm glad and honored to be here. To add a little bit to that introduction, I wanted to say that not only do I serve as the Equity Officer for the Dallas-Fort Worth Urban League, but also the founder and lead organizer for Our Vote is Our Voice, which is a voter engagement coalition that meets bi-weekly. And we have a Facebook group of over about 600, and we do voter registration, voter education, voter mobilization, and share advocacy things that are going on in the state and local levels with our community partners and our members. In addition to that, as Ernestine mentioned, I do a lot of work in the social justice sphere, and I feel that a lot of the work starts with voter education and voter engagement, because we can't see the answers and the future that we want without having individuals who agree with us and align with us in various elected positions. So today I am going to share a little voter data, and also let me add, I'm a former director of organizing for the Texas Democratic Party and the D-Trip. This is a nonpartisan conversation, but I wanted to share that experience with you all as well, and notify you all that I do GOTV organizing for various campaigns, and am the founder of Impactful Touch Public Affairs Firm, which is an agency where we offer strategic support for candidates, nonprofits, elected officials who are trying to do more community engagement and civic engagement work. So for this conversation today, I'm going to share some voter turnout numbers for both the 2020 election and then our local election that happened May of 2021. Sorry, time is really crazy right now, so it's hard to remember when and where things took place. After that, I'm going to share some of the initiatives that I'm involved in now, including our community and civic empowerment survey. And then I have a few questions that were submitted to me about a couple of days ago via Facebook. So I'll answer those two questions and then allow Ernestine to ask any other questions that she has. Okay, does that sound good? Perfect. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen really now. So the first thing I'm going to share is voter turnout numbers from our May 2021 election. These are only the early voter turnout numbers due to the election day numbers not being posted to days later. It's not included in this data here, but it gives us a good overview of what voter turnout was in those local elections. And then normally, traditionally, we see that the number of people who turn out through the 2 weeks of early voting, we have that same turnout on election day. So you can technically double the numbers to get a good idea of what that voter turnout was. So as many of the people on this call know, there's about 1.385 million people who are registered to vote in Dallas County. And of that 1.3 million or so in local elections, we only have about 5 to 10% voting. So voter turnout is low across the city of Dallas and the county of Dallas. There are some particular districts that are lower than others. But overall, when we look at the data, it's all pretty low and alarming. So I think it's not a good idea to single out any one district because every district is pretty much lower than 10 or 11%. So I'm going to show you some of these numbers. And then again, keep in mind that this data is for early voting and not election day. So the numbers are lower than the actual of what the data really is. And Ernestine, if I can get a thumbs up if you can see the screen. Can you see the screen? Okay, perfect. I'm going to zoom in because I know this could be a lot. And I'm going to try to guide you through some of this conversation. So what you're seeing is a breakdown of voter turnout by age group. So we have the 18 to 24 age group, the 25 to 34 age group, the 35 to 49 age group, the 50 to 64 age group, and then the 65 and older age group. If you look on the y-axis, you see the numbers 1 through 14. So I'm sure everyone in this group knows, but in Dallas, in the city of Dallas, there are 14 city council districts. So the numbers represent the city council district and the number of people who voted in each of those districts. I'm going to scroll over a little bit just so you guys can see on the far right the number of people who are registered to vote. And then I'm going to go back and we're going to go through some of this information just so you can see the age difference. Very quickly, you look in District 1, which is primarily about North Oak Cliff or so, you see a voter turnout of about 1,200 for early voting. And then the largest number of people voting in that district are 407, with the lowest amount being people between 18 to 24, which is only 28 during early voting. And again, as I stated before, voter turnout period is low. So I don't want you guys to get caught up on the 65 and older age group votes more because I still don't think that 407 out of thousands is something to brag about. So for the purpose of this conversation, I'm going to skip the 18 to 24 age group only because it appears that in each city council district for early voting, turnout was less than 60. So just know that that's bad all the way around, whether that's in the southern sector or the northern sector. I'll go ahead and go to the next district, with that being District 2, which is downtown. And District 2 is half of their district's downtown, half of it is in it's a very weird shaped district. It's kind of like a U shape. So it goes a little bit of South Dallas downtown, and then it goes to a community called Elm Thicket, which is Freedman's Town, a Black community near North Park. And it has a little bit of East Dallas as well. If you're familiar with St. Luke Church off of 30 that exists in District 2. So again, the highest turnout is the 65 and older age range, followed by the 50 to 64. The 25 to 34 is a little bit higher, and then the 35 to 49 age range is a little lower. District 3, which is the southwest portion of Oak Cliff and then Mountain Creek. This is early voting again. Voter turnout was about 1,000, where the largest, this is a big jump, 600 individuals voted who are 65 and older. Then looking at the 25 to 34 age group, about 34, 35 to 49, 121, and then 267 for 50 to 64. Going back to this 18 to 24, only 15 individuals who are between 18 and 24 voted. And I just want to call this point out that there are at least about 2 high schools that I know of with individuals who kind of stay in this district alone. So when you think of Oak Cliff, Kimball High School and then Carter High School, some of those high schools are partially in this district. So, you know, if that high school class alone would have voted, who were of age to vote, could have made a huge difference in the turnout in this district. I'm going to do District 4 and then a couple more districts. I won't go through all 14 for the sake of time. But District 4 is another district in Oak Cliff. And as we see, it had about 1,300 individuals turn out to vote during early voting. And then this is the breakdown. So you see a huge jump. So it appears that in the southern sector, 849 individuals in District 4 voted, which was the highest of the districts that are pretty much below 30. And then they had 280 from 50 to 64, going on and so forth, to 35 to 49 being 118, then 25 to 34, 51, and then again, 18 to 24 being only 26. I'm gonna go to District 13, which I believe is, I know for sure it's in North Dallas. This is the former district of Councilwoman Jennifer Starbuck Gates. I believe I'm correct. I'm about 80% sure I'm correct. I'm just going to this district just because it has the highest voter turnout numbers. And I just want to compare and show you all. So about 4,000 individuals voted in this district, comparing it to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, to District 5 and 6 that had less than 1,000. The number of individuals who were 65 and older were 2,258. And then as you can see, 1,189 for 50 to 64, 475 from 35 to 49, 145 from 25 to 34, and then 18 to 24, the voter turnout was 57. So they had the highest number, or the second highest number of 18 to 24, but then the highest number in voter turnout for the 65 and older, in addition to the 50 to 64 age group. So give me a second, I'm going to go down a little bit. So this is just a little graphic that can better help you visualize what that looks like on a graph for those who are, who are visual. Zoom out a little bit if I can. So basically what I'm trying to show is that those individuals who are 60 to 65 have about a 60%, they're 60% more likely to turn out to vote than individuals that are 34 and under. So I just want to show the disparity there. And then for a second, go up to, sorry, my screen is acting a little wonky. Uh-oh. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing for a brief second because I'm having some technology issues. So just showing the number of registered voters in these districts. So the one thing I want to point out is at the larger scheme of things, let's see. The number of registered voters are pretty much, there's not a huge difference, is what I'm trying to point out. As far as registered voters, a lot of the numbers are relatively close to each other. Of course, when we look at the far north Dallas, District 13 and 14, and a few other districts, there are significantly more, but not anything that's too alarming. But what I'm trying to point out is that the main issue is not registering the vote, it's more so those numbers equating to votes, which they're just not doing. So there's a big push to get young people registered to vote and just people in general registered to vote. So when we look at this number, we see 71,000 people between 18 and 24 are registered, but then only 406 turned out to vote early. So that's one thing I want to share. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen there and just have a little conversation and share some things that we're doing and talk about the issue. And again, I think that organizations around the county and around the state really do voter registration well. And I think that the opportunity is for organizations to do voter education a little bit better, in addition to voter mobilization, which includes voter engagement. So the question that we should be asking ourselves is, now that we've registered voters, how do we ensure, or how do we build relationship with these voters to ensure that they're actually going out into the polls? And the answer to that question, in my opinion, is the second part of what I said, and that's building relationship. A lot of times we see organizations show up to register voters at XYZ site, and a lot of times it's, you know, the month or 2 months before the election. But the reality is, no matter how sweet, no matter how nice we are, no matter what swag we give individuals, if we only have one encounter with a first-time voter or someone who's been disenfranchised or who haven't voted in a few years, that one encounter more than likely won't be enough to encourage that person to vote. So if you follow just the news period, you know that in Georgia was a historical year in 2020. And if you did not know, we learned that Stacey Abrams had a massive campaign that was nonpartisan. And when I say campaign, not a political campaign, but a campaign to register voters. And what they did is they showed up at voters' doors and had conversations with them throughout the year. So opposed to showing up only during election time, they showed up throughout the year to have conversations, build relationships, and ask voters what's important to them. She stated in the interview that each person had to at least have 6 touch points, and those 6 touch points could not take place within the same month or the 2-month period. So each quarter or so, I can't remember the exact logistics of it, but what we do know is that throughout the year's time, that they had a minimum of 6 touch points with every person in engagement. So I think that's a strategy that we need to adopt here in Texas if you want to see increased voter turnout, and not just local elections, but national and statewide elections as well. Give me 1 second, I'm gonna try to share my screen one more time. This is just to continue the conversation of voter turnout. I wanted to show you guys the midterm and presidential election years as well with voter turnout. And this information can be found on the Secretary of State's page. So basically here we have the number of registered voters. And I think I told you guys 1.38. So it looks like the number was actually 1.39, but I still feel like that 8 is in there somewhere. So keep in mind that if you're an inactive voter for more than a cycle, you're at risk of being purged from the voter record. So that number kind of fluctuates in addition to the number of voters that we're bringing in. So we had the most voters registered, and it appears to be since 1988 in 2020, which is amazing. But voter turnout was not the highest since 1988. So I'm just going to go over these numbers. In 2020, by the 2020 election, we had 1.39 million individuals registered. but only about 917 turned out to vote for that election, which is pretty decent compared to our past elections. And that's about 65% of that 900,000, 800,000 voted early, which is a little different. So we noticed a lot more people voted early rather than on election day. What data shows that in the past, normally we have a high turnout on election day where you can expect sort of a doubling if you would speak. So what we saw this time, many people turned out during early voting. I think that's due to a lot of organizations like the League of Women Voters and many other civic organizations that push people to get out to vote early. Going up to 2018, I just want to show the difference in voter turnout. So we registered an extra 100,000 voters, and the percentage of people turning out to vote increased. And then the number of people voting early went from about 500,000 to 800,000, 300,000 increase. So that's great. I'm gonna do a couple more just to show you guys the difference and then go to my last slide or my last information I'm gonna share. So 2016, which was another huge election, we had 58%, 2.87 million people voting. I wanna go up to when was the last time we were in the 60s? And that was 2008. When I say 60s, I mean voter turnout. So in 2008, we all know what that election was. We had a record high voter turnout being 61%. So I think it's just interesting that we had even more voter turnout in this election here than in 2008. Yes. Oh, let's not delete that. In addition to that, the last time or the year that we had the highest voter turnout appears to be back in 1992. And I was only a toddler. So I don't want to get this wrong, but I want to say that was potentially Bill Clinton. I'm going to look it up so I can tell you the truth, but I just want to show you guys when what year we had the highest voter turnout in the past few decades, and that was 1992. So I'll stop my screen sharing here and show one more document. Hopefully someone took a screenshot of this just to share. It's interesting to look at. But if you did not, again, you can go to the Secretary of State's website to find this information. So now that we talked about voter registration and voter turnout, again, voter turnout is the goal. Voter registration is a mechanism that we use to bring more people into the fold or into the work. But the solution to increasing voter turnout is not only voter registration, but again, it's voter education and voter mobilization, which you have to do through voter engagement. So one thing that we are doing with OVOV, which stands for Our Vote is Our Voice, is we have created a civic and community survey. And basically, as we're registering voters in the community, we traditionally go to gas stations and grocery stores and different community events and register voters throughout the year. But the reality is that we may see somebody that we don't know, and we may not ever see those people again. So what we started to do, originally we did pledge cards, but now we're taking it a step further and we're doing the survey. So as they're registering to vote, they complete the survey. When they complete the survey, we give them incentives and just different swag and things of that nature. And now we really have a tool in which we can engage the person throughout the next few months, opposed to losing that person, and additionally, just helping to build a relationship with that person. And if you have pledge cards, I think those are excellent. But remember, you have to do something with the pledge card for it to truly be essential. And for those who don't know, I know everybody on this call involved with this organization knows, pledge card is just a card that says, I blank and blank pledge to vote at this election. And then traditionally, sometimes you slip them a reminder and then you keep the other part. But if your organization is not reaching out to those voters and that have signed the pledge card, then unfortunately, those numbers are kind of in vain. So I'm going to share our survey just so you can see some of the questions that we're asking and some of the data that we're gathering. We've only been doing this survey for about a couple of months, but we want to do it throughout up into the November election. And again, this is just going to help us increase relationship with the people that we're registering. Not only that, but it helps us gauge those conversations. So based on what their needs are, we help alleviate those needs by connecting them with community partners. And then it helps us kind of pinpoint and start a conversation with people we really don't know, because we can start conversations around the things that they identified. So I'm gonna show this document in just a second. And Annette, I see your question in the chat, and I will definitely send the survey to Ernestine. And once I get done presenting, I'll try my best to post it in the chat. Great. So it has loaded, and I'm about to share now. Share screen. So I'm just going to read some of the questions that we asked the individuals that were registering at voter registration events. The first question is, do you have any immediate emergency needs? If so, what are they? And the reason that we decided to ask this question first is because if a person is experiencing severe poverty or something that is a bigger or larger pressing issue than voting, then more than likely they're not going to vote because they're trying to figure out how they're going to eat or how they're going to survive, on and so forth. So we ask what their needs are, and if we have capacity to help someone with alleviate those needs, we like to provide resources to those needs. And then I promise you, and we don't do this for this reason, but in the event that we help someone out and give them a resource, they're probably more than likely to stay in touch with us and spread the information that we're sharing, and just engage with us, period, because we've shown interest into them. We also ask if they've been impacted by COVID-19 and if they're in need of any financial resources like rental assistance or utility assistance and things of that nature. Being that there are a lot of funds out, a lot of our partners have access to these funds. We want to funnel individuals who are in need to those resources. So this is where we have to do some more work. So it appears that everyone who we've asked, are they registered to vote, are registered. And what that tells me, so it tells me two things. I was going to say that we're preaching to the choir, but it could be that people are completing this survey after they registered to vote with us. So it's not a true indication of like, were you registered before this or not? But it just hit me like right here that it's 100% yes, because after they registered to vote, they complete the survey. Okay, so this is where, it gets a little bit interesting. We talked about, we asked the individuals to pick 3 community issues that are most important to them and their community. And the idea is when it comes to messaging and conversation, we'll have conversation around these issues. And when we go to these communities, we'll have information packets on these issues. So a lot of people are turned off with the politics of elections, like this person versus this person. But if organizations can develop literature that talks about issues and say, and the League does a great job, the League of Women Voters does a great job with their questionnaire, but basically, they ask the candidates these questions, they answer the different questions, and based on the issues, voters can decide, which voter is more aligned to what they care about. So just from looking at the survey, it looks like as of now, the top issue that's important to individuals that we've been talking to is education, followed by food insecurity. And again, we do a lot of our work in the southern sector of Dallas. And then affordable housing, followed by economic development. So I think it's spot on from what I see and hear in the community, but it's good to have this data point too. And I'm interested to see how things would change as we get a few hundred of these survey responses. So here we asked them, did you vote in the last local election? So individuals who indicated that they did not vote, we will more than likely have a little bit more conversation with those individuals and just see why, and do a few more reminders because they're not a frequent voter in an election. So if you look at this number, 16% did not vote in that election, 83% did. And then I'll skip some of the reasons why they did not vote because I don't want to share that with you. Then the 2020 election, so the people that we're talking to on the streets, we went from 11% to 3%, I think that other number was, which makes sense because more people know and are more concerned about the presidential election. And then the midterm election, we are at 9%. So more people did not vote in the midterm election, but even more people did not vote in the local election, which makes sense. More people turn out for those presidential elections, we know, followed by the midterm elections, and then the fewer amount of people turn out for the local elections, unfortunately. And I am going to script past this. One of the reasons was COVID, and I think that's important to identify, just so we can find ways for those individuals to vote when they say they don't want to get out due to COVID. This is just individuals got to put in what will make you vote more regularly. One person said a phone call reminder. So I know a lot of y'all get those phone calls and text messages and you think they're annoying, but we have at least one person who says they would like that reminder. Somebody else says community resources. Just wanted to share that because that stood out to me. Skip past those names, skip past these phone numbers. As you see, most of the people that we're talking to are in Dallas County. A lot of people we're talking to are between the 25 to 34 age group, followed by the 35 to 44 age group, followed by 45 to 54, then 55 to 64. So we need to do a better job of reaching 65 and older individuals, and then the 18 to 24 age group. With the 65 and older individuals, it could be that the locations we're going to, they're not targeted to those age groups. And then the 18 to 24, we just have to get inside the schools and partner with organizations that have access to those students and community college students. Gender, mostly female. We know the female gender turns out to vote at more rates than the male gender. And the other thing that I want to call out on gender, I can't remember, but that's the numbers there. Again, a lot of our activity is in the southern sector. So naturally, the largest amount of individuals that we're talking to are Black and African American. But we do voter registration and this everywhere. This is just the income breakdown. And our goal is to get a lot more people who are in the 20 to 34,000 and less than 20,000 and 35 to 49,000 income, just so they can feel to increase their voice in the process. And so we can hear from them as well. We ask if they're BDR. So 47% were not BDRs, or 53% were not. We ask if they want to become a partner. And then we ask if we can notify them of community resources. So if you're an organization in the audience and you have a community resource or something to share, please reach out and we'll send this to the people who completed the survey. And the other things that we're going to do is we're going to reach out to these individuals quarterly before the election. And then when it's a little bit closer to the election, we'll reach out a little bit more often until they have told us that they voted. So that's our survey. Pretty simple and to the point. The last thing I'll share is just some of the work that our organization is doing. And again, we have voter hubs at gas stations and grocery stores in the southern sector weekly, but we also go to community events when called on. We also have a series called Freedom Fridays where we go on Facebook Live and we share, we talk about like the different issues that were mentioned on the survey. In the past, we've done a couple movie screenings where we show movies in the southern sector to get people out to vote, but also entertain them and just give them information. And then we do phone banks, we do canvassing, and just a whole array of things. The Dallas-Fort Worth Urban League is a nonpartisan organization as well. The primary thing that we do is voter registration. A couple of years ago, we registered about 900 voters in a election cycle, which was huge for us. And we did so by meeting young people and young professionals where they are, by primarily going to events, but not only that, bars and poetry lounges and things of that nature. So we were able to do that. A lot of the bars and lounges that had events allowed us to register voters to come in. And they even said, if you register to vote, you got a free drink ticket, on and so forth. The last two things is that we do a candidate forum called YP on the Road, where we bring candidates to young professionals, opposed to candidates being on a stage and just basically speaking and only a few people getting to ask questions. They rotate from table to table, where they have about 10 to 15 minutes at each table that has about 10 individuals, so that each person feels that they can ask a candidate at least a question or hear directly from that candidate. The last thing is just canvassing and voter engagement. One other thing that we did this past year is we had some of our volunteers use VAN, which stands for the Voter Action Network, I believe. And we did a search on our members to see how many of our members voted in the previous elections. And we just shared the data to make people aware, because I think a lot of times we assume that we're preaching to the choir and everybody inside of our group votes. But if that was the truth, then the numbers wouldn't look like they looked. And the truth is, some people may vote in presidential elections, but may not vote in runoffs or may not vote in special elections. And I think it was cool for us to call out the percentages of our membership that voted in pretty much all the elections. So that sums up some of the things that we do in a nutshell. I'm going to pass it back to Ernestine, who will read any questions that you all may have, and I'm happy to answer whatever.
Sure. Thank you very much, Sean. Lots of good ideas there that we're hearing. So I have one question that says, Sean, what are you doing to reach the Republicans who have denounced their party and are supporting Democratic candidates?
Sorry, I went on mute. So currently, as I mentioned, voter registration. So for our voter registration efforts, it is nonpartisan. So we don't have a strategy to reach Republicans, but what we do is just show up in communities and answer the call to register voters. If there is a specific strategy that someone else is doing, I'm open to hearing what that is, so we can get as many people active in voting. We know there's a lot of voter frustration right now, and what we don't want is a lot of people who have quote unquote denounced the party to sit out the election. We want them to vote in regardless of their party affiliation. So if you have that question, you want to connect with me on ideas to reach those individuals, let's connect outside of this call. But again, voter registration is nonpartisan, but we can do some other ideas to target that group.
Okay. Another comment and question. Very good survey. Thank you for sharing. And how do you reach folks not on social media?
So in addition to sharing this on social media, we go to, there's two grocery stores that we have good relationships with, and that's the Cash Saver grocery stores. And we try to get people as they're coming out from the grocery store. So that's how we reach people who aren't on social media or who aren't connected with us on social media. And in addition to those gas stations, those 7-Elevens, 7-Eleven's corporate office is in Irving, actually, I believe, or maybe it's Las Colinas, but it's out this way. So we have a good relationship with them, and they've given us permission to register voters at about 5 different 7-Elevens in the southern sector. In addition to that, we have a faith leader outreach type of committee where we hope to get more faith leaders involved in this voter registration aspect in this survey. So we're asking those faith leaders to provide us with voter registration opportunities, in addition to sharing the survey as well. So some of them have responded, some have not. We're steadily working on that, but that's what we're doing currently. Oh, it's also in the QR code, I believe, was placed in the Dallas Examiner. I'm not sure how often, was that a one-time thing or not, but I'll check in on that to make sure that that's being renewed.
Okay, basically just some comments. This is what you call real voter engagement. So that definitely thank you. And poetry lounges, nice touch. Do you work with the Dallas NAACP is another question.
I'm glad, really crazy and ironic that you asked, because my foot was on something And as I lift, as I lift up, my foot was on, it's a NAACP card. So very, very ironic. I was like, what is this? So anyway, we do work with the NAACP in Dallas, but one of our leadership team members is a branch president with the DFW Metro NAACP, which is the Carrollton, Louisville, Farmers Branch area. For the Dallas chapter or the Dallas branch of NAACP, our co-founder, Councilman Casey Thomas, was the previous president at one point, but currently was serving as political action chair. So we partnered with them. And in addition to that, the Youth Council actually adopted, which is led by their advisor, Lydia Lydium. They adopted one of the sites. So they showed up to those sites 8 different times when we were doing voter registration. So we definitely partner with the NAACP.
Okay. Myself on video here. I don't see any other questions. Does anyone want to take themselves off mute and ask a question? Certainly feel free to.
I see a few in the Q&A part.
Okay. Oh, yes, we do. Okay.
Okay, that one was asked, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
The other one is, do you have a way to measure how many people actually turn out to vote after voter engagement?
So for those who are familiar, there's a software or system called VAN. I want to say it's called Voter Action Network.
That's correct.
And nonprofit C3s and candidates have access to VAN. And if you're a precinct chair, you have access to VAN. The problem is nobody really knows how to use it. But in that system, you can see voter turnout. The only thing is there's a delay. So I want to say you can't see election day, like you can see early voting day, but it's like 2 days after you can see the day 2 days before, if that makes sense. So it's not same day data. But again, it's time consuming. But when we do have volunteers, like we had interns last year who searched the people who we spoke with, and we did a search on those individuals. And if you're an Excel guru, I used to be able to do this, but now, you know, it's something where if you don't do it all the time, you lose it. You can download the list. And then if you on Excel, and if you have a list of the people that you talk to on Excel and they match formats, I want to say it's called a VLOOKUP, or it's something that you can do to compare the 2 lists, and it'll pull out the number of people that are on both lists. So if you really know Excel, that's a way that you can kind of figure out easily who voted or which people appear on the list. But Excel had some changes, and now I don't know how to do it. And now it just frustrates me. So we have to go manually one person by one person.
Thank
But
you.
if you have if you have Excel access or Excel, if you're just an Excel guru and you can do some of these things, please reach out to me because you're extremely valuable.
Any other questions? Let me see here. I don't see anything in chat or in our Q&A. Do we have anything, Chris? Did you and Deli get Facebook going? No. I have one question. I know another organization that you are involved with is called Dallas Votes. And I was wondering if you might talk a little bit about that, because I know Dallas League members are involved with that. And I believe Collin County League members. So I thought if you could, I know there's some members of other organizations as well as Irving League members online. I thought they might like to know about that. If you could just give a kind of a brief introduction to that.
Yes, for sure. And I apologize for any organizations that I'm a part of that I missed, but they're a plethora. But Dallas Votes is a voter coalition that basically communicates with the elections departments to ensure that elections are not only safe and secure, but just done correctly. So there are a group of organizations that are in the coalition that ensure that individuals are doing voter registration, that the elections are fully staffed, and that communicate regularly with the Dallas County Elections Administrator to just really fill in any gaps that exist in Dallas County elections. So they also meet on a monthly basis and have many subcommittee meetings so that you can join. But if you do voter engagement or civic engagement work, it's imperative that you join a coalition, because if you're working in a silo, it's just not a good idea to see this type of results that we want to see. So it's best to figure out what are best practices, who's doing what, where individuals are doing what. You don't want to show up at a particular community or neighborhood and someone's always already there. We just want to make sure that we're being as effective as we can. And I think that's a good organization or a good coalition to just engage and just hear what others are doing as well. I'm not sure if I can share this yet, but I will anyway. One thing that we're excited about is that one of our partners, which is March to the Polls, and March to the Polls is an organization that does voter registration inside Dallas ISD and just school districts across North Texas. And what they do is they go into the schools, they give a presentation over why it's important to vote, they register students, and after that, they reach out to those students to make sure that they vote as well. So only 2 organizations that I know of are approved to do this in Dallas ISD, and they're one of them. So they're leading an effort to basically to increase voter education by hosting a content creation competition for young people. So individuals who are in high school and individuals who are in college, they are doing a competition where students can enter their graphics or videos and just share, why is it important to vote. And the individuals who have the best video, which will be judged by expert and celebrity judges, will receive a scholarship. So you guys heard this here first. We were not announcing until next month, but if you know a student who has creative abilities, you can go ahead and have them to get started, get a head start on it. So that's just a little bit about Dallas Votes. Again, if your organization does this work, make sure that you're a part of a voter GOTV or voter engagement coalition so that you can share what you're doing and we can just share each other's numbers and just encourage each other, because we know how draining and hard this work can be. And sometimes just being on a call with other people who get it really helps. Ernestine, you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry about that. I have a comment as well as a question. Sean, I sat with Casey Thomas at a LULAC 102 meeting several years ago at El Ranchito. Do you involve LULAC?
Thank you. And I'll have to let him know. But we do. We've invited them to the table. LULAC is one of NAACP's greatest allies and partners in a lot of the work. We did an event this past July, or maybe it was last July. Like I told you, I can't remember the years, with LULAC, NAACP, and the Urban League, but they're definitely received invites to the party. I do think that there's an opportunity to engage local leaders more with on the ground initiatives opposed to those larger GOTV things when it comes, time for election. So we do invite them to the party and we do communicate with them regularly. We partner with advocacy things and when it's time for elections, but we need to do a better job in including the chapters here in some of the voter registration and engagement strategies. So thank you for that comment.
And I don't think this is a question for you, but is Alicia Hinkle on this Zoom call? I'm not sure. I know Chris can probably see the participants. I cannot. March to the polls, I know I've worked with myself. She's just, the attendee is commenting that would be right up Alicia's at Ally. So thank you
I'm
for
gonna
that.
send Ernestine the links for the survey, but also the link for March to the Post to sign up for
That's a
uh,
good idea.
their engagements. And they have a whole list from like now into December of different opportunities. So you can really plan something. Like I signed up for November back in September, and it's on my calendar. But they have a lot of vacancies. So if you have an hour or you can use your lunch hour, please sign up, because as you saw, the 18 to 24 age group, no district in Dallas turned out more than 60 people during early voting, which is traditionally 2 weeks. So that's a little sad.
Okay. Any other questions? I don't see anything in the Q&A or the chat. All right. Well, it's 7:35. We usually go an hour. Certainly, if there are any other questions, we're glad to entertain them. Oh, is the person in your room registered, Sean?
Wendell, are you registered to vote?
Yes.
He is registered. Who
That's
registered?
very good.
I registered him a few years ago. So Wendell is, if you guys need any woodwork done, he does interior design and he builds wood from, I guess, trees. But he built me a desk and just put it up.
All right. Very good.
Gave you a shout out, Wendell.
Okay. Well, if there are no other comments or questions, thank you again, Sean, for your time and sharing all this great information. You've given us some good ideas, because I know the League of Women Voters of Irving is looking at ways that they can get more involved with voter engagement for sure, and getting out the vote. That's one of the things. And oh, someone wants you to put his information in the chat. All right, very good. I'm glad to help out. But anyway, thank you, everyone. If there are no other questions, thank you for joining us, and we will end the call here. And we'll make sure that we get the chat out so that everybody has the information. If you can, Sean, if you can share where the survey and all that, the state of Secretary of State information. I believe someone is interested in that. Or
Okay,
if you want to
I
email it to me
will.
too, I can do that too.
Don't hang up the Zoom. I'm putting Wendell's information, blueprint.
Okay, very good.
Living
Won't.
at Gmail. And sorry for going over. You have to time me because I have no.
Oh no, that's okay. We got started late. So
Okay. Okay. Perfect. Okay. Blueprint corporate living at gmail.com. Okay.
all right. Very good. Okay. Well, again, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And I'll email you out of those documents that we talked about.
Okay, great. Great. And we'll post them. All right. Thank you and good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night, Sean. Thank you.